I'm the Member Services Officer with GBSN, and I'm the first point of contact with all of our member schools. I'm also pleased to introduce our moderator today, Cami Ogunyemi from Lagos Business School. She's formerly the director of the MBA, the Executive MBA, and the Management Program at LBS, and she's currently completing her PhD in Business Ethics. Her research interests include such topics as social responsibility and sustainability. As our GBSN ambassador, she's also leading our PhD faculty research team. If you're working on your PhD and are interested in collaborative research, please feel free to contact me or Kemi to learn more. Good afternoon, Kemi. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on Getting Published. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm glad to introduce our presenter today, Ruth Heppenstall. Ruth is a publisher with Emerald Group Publishing, and she has worked in the publishing industry for the last 4 years. Her previous roles have also been within the industry. She has been Assistant Publisher Managing Operations, Quality and Logistics Management Journals. She has worked managing other journals also, and then in her role as External Relations Assistant at Emerald, she coordinated the award programs for Emerald. She has a lot of experience in the subject matter, and I am sure that we're going to learn a lot from this session with Ruth. Thank you, Ruth, for joining us today.
Hello, Ruth. Can you hear us?
Hi, I can. Can you see my screen?
We're currently, seeing the introduction.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. Thank you, Kemi, for your introduction. I have worked in the publishing industry for the last 4 years, and I have lots of experience I want to share with you today. So the aims of the session are to really try to demystify the publishing process, to give you lots of hints and tips to really try and maximise your chances of publication. I want to really encourage some of you to go beyond publishing, so there are opportunities that you might want to think about, such as acting as a journal reviewer or a book reviewer. You might, there are opportunities that you might want to think about, and I'll review those with you later. There'll be an opportunity for question and answers, so you can ask me anything you like. There'll also be an opportunity for follow-up, and really the main overarching aim of the session today is to get you to share your knowledge and to really get you writing. Okay, moving on, we're going to take a poll today. So I want to ask you how many times you've been published. So if you take a few minutes to complete the poll, and if you've been published, if you've never been published, if you've published once, under 5 times, between 5 to 10 times, and over 10 times. So I'll just give you a few minutes to do the poll there.
Give it just a few minutes to launch.
Okay, so from the poll I can see that 20% of you have never published, so we obviously have a lot of newcomers here, and then 40% have published under 5 times, so we do have quite a good range of experience there. 20% published between 5 to 10 times, and 20% over 10 times, so there is actually quite a lot of experience in the audience today, which is good to know. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background about Emerald Group Publishing, the company was founded in 1967 in Bradford, West Yorkshire. We have over 250 employees. We have over 250 employees, and we have offices worldwide in China, India, Malaysia, Australia, Japan, Brazil, and the US. And there's a nice image there of the rolling hills of Bradford. Our portfolio comprises many different subject areas, such as business and management, education, human resource management, and marketing. We have over 250 journals, 240 book series, and 300 standalone texts. Most of our content is packaged onto electronic databases, such as the Emerald Management eJournals and the Emerald Management First Collection. Over 3,000 university libraries worldwide subscribe to our content, including 98 of the Financial Times and 100 business schools. I won't go into too much detail here. There is a lot of information on this slide, but I just want to highlight the fact that a lot of our content is really highly downloaded and it's very well used as well. So as an author, if you publish in an Emerald Journal, it has a potential readership of up to 15 million people. So that's really good news. Something that is a good place to start before you start writing is to consider the impact of your research. So to really question why you're writing, what sort of impact it will have, and who you're writing for. So this is something that we're really keen on at Emerald here. We really want to publish research that has an impact on the wider world. So we're really keen to publish research that has impact on the knowledge base. This is research that makes a contribution to the body of knowledge and generates further research. Research that influences teaching and learning, for example, curricular changes. Research that influences the world of practice, so it might have an impact on business, particular business or managers. Research that has impact in the public policy arena, in the economy, so research that contributes to wealth creation and business advancement. Research that has impact on the society and the environment. So this is really research that challenges cultural norms and the accepted ways of thinking, and that has an impact on the way people live their lives. And so I think it's really important as an author that you consider the impact that your research will have on the wider community. And it's really beneficial to you to highlight this actually in your research paper and in the abstract that you submit with your paper. I thought it was useful to include a graphic on the editorial supply chain and journal management structure, really to try to demystify the publishing process. As an author, when you submit your paper to an academic research journal publisher, what happens to your paper and the various stages it goes through the process. So at the beginning of the supply chain, we have the author, such as yourself, who carries out research and produces quality research articles. The author then submits their article to the editor, and then the editor is the person that really works with the editorial advisory board to define the scope and coverage and direction of the journal. The editor also works with the reviewers, so the editor will send your paper out to reviewers, and then the feedback from the reviewers will come back to the editor, who will review the comments and then make decisions based on this. It's also the role of the editor to solicit new papers. The editor also handles the whole review process and promotes the journals and your papers to their peers. The editor also attends conferences, develops new areas of network coverage, so you can see the editor has a really busy role here. Then moving on, we have the publisher. I'm a publisher, so I am really the link between the publishing company here at Emerald and the editor. So it's my role to really help editors to succeed in their role, with the aim of building a really good quality journal to attract the best kinds of authors such as yourselves. The journal is essentially the overall responsibility of the publisher, and we do carry out a lot of promotion and marketing of our authors' work, so that is another benefit of publishing with Emerald. We also attend lots of conferences, and we also compile issues and hand them to production as well. Moving on from the publisher to production, here at Emerald we have a quality assurance department who do a lot of work to really add value to your paper. So the quality assurance department will do a sub-editing and a proofreading process on your paper. They'll also convert your paper into the right kind of format to make it fully searchable for our online databases to make sure that readers can access your paper. Production will also collate, they'll also sort of manage the print process and the dispatch of journals. And throughout the whole process, we're really adding value to your paper. Then moving on, we have the users. Most of our users do access the content via libraries through journal subscriptions. However, some do access the content via hard copies, and we also have third parties that access our content as well. So I just thought that was useful to show you a snapshot of the whole process. Okay, and you can see here from, oh, sorry, I've gone too far. You can see here from the arrow that this moves from the users back to the author, so this is really an ongoing continuous cycle. Moving on to ideas, so where to start. As you know, if you can, I've put a list of questions on the slide here that I want you to bear in mind. So are you working on a doctoral or master's thesis at the moment? If you are, it's possible to get 2 to 3 papers out of a good PhD. Have you completed a project which concluded successfully? Are you wrestling with a solution, with a problem with no clear solution? Do you have an opinion or observation on a particular subject? Have you given a presentation or a conference paper? This could be a particularly useful one actually, because if you have given a conference paper, then the feedback that you'll have received from your peers could be particularly useful in helping you to write a research article. Essentially, if you can answer yes to any of these questions, then you do potentially have the basis for a good quality publishable paper. Something that you might want to bear in mind is a co-authorship as a possibility. And this could be particularly good for first-time authors. So you might want to consider co-authoring a paper with your supervisor, with a colleague across another department, with someone from a different institution. Through co-authorship, you can really demonstrate the authority and rigor of your research. And it is especially useful for any cross-disciplinary research. And it really allows you the opportunity to pool your areas of expertise with your co-author and to really make the most of them. If you are going to think about co-authorship as a possibility for you, there are things to bear in mind. So it's important that you ensure that the manuscript is checked and edited so that it reads as one voice. You know, I think if you've divided the work up, if you've done half and your co-author has done the other half, your writing styles are probably quite different. So it's worthwhile asking a colleague just to proofread the whole of the paper to check that it does read through clearly and concisely as one voice. Obviously, exploit your individual strengths. And it's worthwhile that you agree and clarify the order and appearance of authors and the person who's taking the role of corresponding author. Because from the publisher's perspective, when papers are going through the publishing process, we often have a lot of queries with all the papers that go through the process. So it's really essential that we can actually contact the corresponding author. And if we have any problems getting in touch, it could potentially delay the publication of your paper. So it's worthwhile to bear that in mind as well. In terms of what journal you should submit to, so choosing a journal is an investment decision. A good choice can enhance the impact of your work and your reputation. So there are lots of factors that you might want to bear in mind. Many journals are included in various ranking systems. Thomson Reuters ISI, for example, is perhaps the most well-known ranking. And Thomson Reuters use citation as a measure of quality. There are other ranking systems, such as the Association of Business Schools list, that you might want to bear in mind as well. Obviously, ISI measures citation, but that's not just one measure of quality, and it's by no means a complete guide to quality. There are other factors to bear in mind as well. So you might want to think about usage as well. You know, you might want to look at the usage statistics for a particular journal. If the articles from that particular journal are well downloaded, then chances are, if you publish in that journal, then your article might be more highly downloaded than of another competitor journal, for example. So that's something to bear in mind. You might want to look at recent articles that are published in that journal to get a feel for those, and to really think if that particular journal is right for your paper. It's worthwhile to look into the reach and the circulation of the journal. So if the journal has an international or regional focus, if it has a wide subject area or a niche area, I think you really need to think about your particular research paper and the journal that it would fit best with as well, and who you're trying to target as well. Whether, you know, is a particularly niche subject area, would it benefit from publishing in a niche journal, or are you trying to reach a wider audience than that? So that's something that you need to bear in mind. You might want to consider the likelihood of acceptance and look at the acceptance or rejection rates of a particular journal. Obviously, you know, if it's the first time that you're publishing, it might not be the best decision to target a journal with a very high rejection rate, because you know, it's obviously going to be more difficult to get published in that particular journal. You might want to go through the experience of publishing in a journal with a lower rejection rate first, and then really target some of the higher quality journals later on. It's worthwhile bearing in mind the time from submission to publication as well. So some journals have a really quick turnaround time, others have a longer turnaround time. So again, it depends on your needs really. But essentially, I'd advise you to be political and strategic about your approach to targeting a particular journal and think about what your needs are. Okay, as I've already mentioned, it's really important that you target your paper. This quote here is actually from one of our journal editors, and it reads, "Many papers are rejected simply because they don't fulfill the journal requirements. They don't even go into the review process." So this quote really highlights the importance of targeting your paper to a suitable journal. So I guess as a starting point, do a bit of research, identify a few possible journals that you want to target, obviously, but be realistic. Read at least one issue of the journal. Consider visiting your library for access to try and get a feel for that particular journal. Once you've made a decision for a journal that you want to submit your paper to, have a look on the publisher's website, go through the author guidelines, have a read of the scope and coverage of the journals, and look at the type of papers it publishes. At Emerald, we offer free access to various sample articles, which you can download free of charge. So that's really worthwhile doing to give you an idea of the content that publishes in that journal. And you can look at the word length, reference style, etc., etc. So it's worthwhile doing that. It's also worthwhile sending an outline or abstract to the editor, and really ask the editor if he or she feels that your article is suitable and interesting, and if they think it's appropriate for their journal. And if it's not appropriate, if they have any suggestions of how it could be made to fit that particular journal or any improvements they want to suggest, you're probably more likely to get a better response rather than just submitting if you're not sure if your article is appropriate for that journal. Find out how to submit your paper via an online submission system, for example. Some journals use online submission systems. You might need to email it directly to the editor. There might be a regional editor or a subject area editor that you need to approach and send your submission to. It sounds really obvious, but really do your homework and make sure that you're submitting your paper through the right means. It's important that you don't get off on the wrong foot with the editor to start off with. I'd advise you to include a cover letter with your submission, and this really allows you the opportunity to speak directly to the editor, to convince them of the importance of your paper and why they should publish it in the journal as well, so really sell it to them. This is just a screenshot taken from our website. This is the author guidelines section from the European Journal of Marketing, just to give you an idea of the appearance of this. If you log on to our website, you can access the author guidelines from the journal information page, and they're all available, tailored to every specific journal. So go online and have a look. Right, and this slide, there's a lot of information here, and this is probably the most important slide in the presentation, so I'd advise you to try and remember as much as you can from this slide. So what makes a good paper? These are the key points, really, which reviewers and editors are looking for. So, like I said, it's really important that you try and remember some of these things. So first of all, originality. So question, what is new about the subject of your paper? What is new about the treatment or the results? This is something that reviewers really look for. So if you can really highlight this, spell it out in your paper, make it really obvious, then this will really help improve your chances of publication. Your paper should also relate to other research that's been published as well. You should demonstrate that you know the standard of existing research and that your work builds on it. So you should really explain how your paper is adding something new to the body of knowledge. Regarding the research methodology, it should be clear so that the conclusions can be assessed and validated. So really, spend your time, make sure that the conclusions are valid and objective. Check through that the clarity, structure and quality of writing of your paper is good. Check that it communicates well. There should obviously be a sound and logical progression of argument throughout the paper. So obviously make sure that when you're moving from one section to the next that it reads well and it makes logical sense. Consider the theoretical and practical implications of your research and really try and outline those. So these are what we know here as the so what factors. So essentially try to really sell what are the benefits of your paper, what difference is it going to make, if your paper is published above competitor, above your competitors, why should it be published? I think it's really important that you try and spell it out. It's important that you include relevant references. If your paper has an international or a global focus as well, again, spell that out because that's useful for the editor. It's important, as I've said before, that you do adhere to the editorial scope and objectives of the journal. And you know, the clearer you can make this in your paper, the better. A good title, keywords, and a well-written abstract is really important, and this will really help the searchability of your article. So once your article's been published and users are trying to find content on a particular subject area, if you can use keywords within the abstract and your title, then it's more likely to come up as the top of their search results. So it's really important that you spend the time, you know, making sure that you include appropriate keywords and that your abstract is well written and you include a nice, snappy title. So as I mentioned, here at Emerald we do publish structured abstracts. We ask all our authors to provide a structured abstract with their paper submission. We ask them to structure their abstract and outline, include the headings on the slide within their abstract. So we ask authors to outline the purpose, so what are the aims of the research, so essentially why are they writing the paper. We ask them to really make clear the design of the paper, so the methodology or the approach. The findings, so to really pull out the main results of the paper. The research limitations or implications, if applicable. The practical implications. And the social implications, and this is actually a new section that we've added recently, so the impact that your paper might have on society or policy, the originality or the value of your research. This is really crucial actually, so how does your research add to the body of knowledge and what is its value? So it's really important to try and highlight that and make it really clear. So that's structured abstract. So I've included this slide. This is an example of a good structured abstract. This one is particularly good because it's very clear, it's concise, it's to the point, it's easy to read. The text that's included in the slide that has been highlighted in bold, these are keywords that the author has actually outlined as keywords, but they also exist within the title itself. So this paper will be really highly searchable on the website, so it will potentially make the paper more downloadable by readers in the field. So this is something that you might want to consider as well, and I'd really recommend that you do. Right, so copyright. As the author, you need to ensure that you get permission to use content you've not created before submitting your manuscript. Otherwise, it could potentially delay your paper from being published. So if you're wanting to include any content in your paper which you haven't created yourself, so for example, tables, figures, illustrations, sort of snippets of text, for example, then you really do need to make sure that you get permission from the copyright holder, who could be the original author or the original publisher. When you're making your submission, supply written confirmation from the copyright holder when submitting your manuscript. If permission can't be cleared, unfortunately we can't republish the content. So if in doubt, make sure you clear the permission. More information, including a permissions checklist and a request form, is available at the link shown on the slide here. So really make use of those. There's lots of really useful information there. Moving on to plagiarism and referencing. At Emerald, we do a lot of work to really try and protect our authors' work from plagiarism. I'm sure you're all aware, but just in case you're not, plagiarism is the act of taking someone else's work and passing it off as your own. It's also known as false attribution. It can be difficult to detect with peer review, but there are tools that we use to help us. We use what we call Authenticate software to check for possible cases of plagiarism. So if you do publish in an Emerald journal, we will protect there are tools that we can use to protect your paper from plagiarism. You can also view our plagiarism policy online, and for more general information, there's a website to view there as well. So in terms of the timetable from making your submission to initial feedback that you'll receive from the editor, this is really a rough guide, and it's based on the following criteria running smoothly. So as an author, you submit your paper to the editor. The editor does an initial read to determine if the subject matter and the research approach is appropriate for the journal, so this can take approximately a week. Then the editor will identify and contact 2 reviewers, which will take approximately another week. And then reviewers usually have 6 to 8 weeks to complete their reviews. So the reviewers will send their reviews back to the editor, and then the editor will then assess the reviewer's comments and recommendations and then make a decision from this, which could take approximately 2 weeks. So all in all, the expected time from submission to review feedback is roughly 3 to 3.5 months. However, it's important to bear in mind that this really relies on all these steps running smoothly, and editors and reviewers are all really busy people, and they have obviously day jobs, and they're doing their work on the journals additionally to all the other work that they do anyway. So, you know, the whole process will vary from journal to journal. So this is just a rough guide. Once you've submitted your article, a request for revision really is good news. I think sometimes authors tend to get probably take it a bit personally if they're asked to make revisions on a paper. But you know, if you're asked to revise your paper, it really is good news. So you should, you know, and essentially you are in the publishing cycle now. Nearly every paper published is revised at least once. So don't panic. Even if the comments from the reviewers are a bit sharp or discouraging, they aren't personal. All of our journals here at Emerald, all the papers go through double-blind peer review. So all the author details are taken off the paper. So really the reviewers and the editors are reviewing the content solely on its merits. So the comments really aren't personal. If your paper is rejected, don't give up. At least 50% of papers in the business and management area don't go through, aren't published. And everyone's been rejected at least once. You know, even top quality authors, even really big names in the field have been rejected before. So, you know, it's really nothing to take personally, you know. I think essentially if you do get rejected, ask why. Ask the editor why your paper's been rejected and really listen. Use it as a learning experience. You know, most editors will be happy to give you detailed feedback and suggestions for improvement. So really try and take the comments on board and use them to your own benefit. Keep trying. Continually try to improve the paper and consider resubmitting elsewhere as well. Again, do your homework and try and target your paper as closely as possible. And if in doubt, try again. So this slide, really, I wanted to include this because it gives you an idea of the process of acceptance for a journal. This is just one example. So from 100% of submissions, you can see they've gone through various stages of the submission process. So 100% of papers were submitted. At the first stage of review, 10% were withdrawn at the first stage by the authors. And then further down the line, the second stage of the review process, 6% of authors were withdrawn. 6%, of papers were withdrawn. So this is actually 16% of papers that were withdrawn by the authors. So I really wanted to include this slide to really try and encourage you to, you know, if you're asked to review a paper, it's really important that you make the effort to review it, because 16% of authors here haven't made the effort to review their paper, to revise their paper and send it back, and potentially this 16% could have been published. So, you know, I think this, you know, this speaks volumes really, and I wanted to include this to really highlight the importance of this to you. So, how to revise your paper? Firstly, acknowledge the editor and set a realistic revision deadline. If you feel that you can't make the revision deadline, say why and make sure the editor is aware of that in advance. Clarify any understanding. If in doubt, you know, ask the editor for more information. You know, it's better than you revising the paper and then it coming back to the editor and it not being quite right. Consult with colleagues or co-authors and look at each point individually and really make sure that you're addressing them. Attach a covering letter which identifies point by point how you've met the revision requirements, and if you haven't, why you haven't. This will really make the job of the editor a lot easier, and it could potentially make your paper more publishable quicker. So it's worthwhile doing that. And it sounds really obvious, but make sure you meet the revision deadline. You'll be amazed how many authors don't, and it won't do them any benefits. At Emerald, we do encourage our authors to promote their work, so it's something that I would really encourage you to do. You know, I'm sure you're aware of the benefits of publication. You know, it can really make a difference to your academic career. You can build a name for yourself. Once you've gone to the effort of submitting and you've gone through the whole publishing cycle, once you've published, it really is in your best interest to make sure that you're doing everything you can to promote your work, to really increase the impact of your research. For example, on the knowledge base, your research could influence busy managers. It could influence the world of policy. You know, if you promote your work, it could increase the download statistics, and it could help you to build a name for yourself. So it will help raise your profile, attract collaborators and funding opportunities, for example. So I'd really recommend this. You might be asking, well, how do I promote my work? There are lots of ways that you can promote your work. For example, using your networks, promoting your paper through listservs, press releases, or even simply linking to your article in your email signature is worthwhile doing. And then once published, we at Emerald do actually send you a link. We send you an email to say, congratulations, your paper's been published in Journal X, and we'll send you a link to access your article. So if you send that round, promote it, send it around your networks to try and increase dissemination of your article. You might want to consider contacting the authors in your reference list. I'm sure they would be very pleased that you've quoted their work, so, I'm sure they would be interested to hear about your research, so really spread the word. Ask the publisher to provide you with book or journal leaflets to promote your work, so that might be something you want to think about doing as well. There is a lot that we do here at Emerald to try and support our authors. We have a dedicated editorial and author relations support staff. We have a quality assured copy editing and production service that really add value to the content that we publish. All authors that publish with us become a member of the Emerald Literati Network. We have more than 90,000 members, so you really become part of something bigger. At Emerald, we are a signatory of the Committee on Publication Ethics, so we're committed to protecting authors' work from copyright infringements. Any authors that publish with Emerald in an Emerald journal have the opportunity to take advantage of our ScholarOne online submission system, and also EarlyCite as well, which is actually a pre-publication service that we offer. So rather than waiting many months down the line for your final article to be published, as soon as your paper's gone into the system here, we can actually publish it online, which means that your paper can be read and cited much earlier. So that's a really great benefit. And we do offer a complimentary journal issue and 3 months free access to all authors that publish with Emerald. There are lots of online resources that you might want to take advantage of for researchers and for authors. I've included links on the slide here, so at the end of the presentation if you want to have a look. There are a lot of how-to guides, so for example, how to write a good quality research article, how to write a case study. There are Meet the Editor interviews on there. There's lots of information about all the award programs that we run. So we actually donate a lot of our copyright revenues, and we feed that money back into the research community by offering research fund awards and doctoral research awards. And these are essentially grants that authors can apply for. And we really want to try and invest this money back into the research community. So you know, these are opportunities that you can really take advantage of. At the moment, we have an India Library and Information Science Research Fund Award that's open, and we do have more that are open at the moment. So if you log online, go to the links on these slides, and really have a look at the award programs that we run and find out more, because you know, these are opportunities that you can really take advantage of. There are a lot of other useful resources out there that you can use. There's a whole load of information here about ISI lists, different ranking systems. I won't run through each one, but I'll leave you with this information to use in your own time. As I mentioned right at the beginning of the presentation, there are lots of opportunities that you might want to consider that actually go beyond authorship. So you might want to consider acting as a book reviewer, reviewing articles for journals, becoming a member of an editorial advisory board, and even becoming an editor in the future. You know, these are opportunities that we would really encourage you to pursue. And if you have any particular ideas, if you're interested in proposing a book series or a journal, please feel free to contact us. There's a link to an email address here, or you can contact me as well if you have any particular ideas. So obviously, yeah, just contact us if you have any ideas. So this is the end of the presentation. I hope it's been really useful. I'd advise you obviously to talk to us, use the links in the presentation. Tell us how we can help you if you have any ideas, that, you know, if there's any ways that we can help that with which we're not already helping, you know, give us feedback. There is a link to access the online platform. Really use the journals. And I think we're going to take some questions and answers in a minute. But if you have any really specific questions, then feel free to contact me at any point after the presentation. So thanks very much for listening, and I hope it's been useful.
Thank you very much, Ruth. I think we've all learned a lot. We have a number of questions already. The first question,
Yeah.
Asif would like to know, does MIS, Management of Information Systems, fall under Library and Information Studies?
Sorry, Kemi, could you repeat
Hello?
that, please? Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. Does MIS, that is Management of Information Systems, does it fit under Library and Information Studies? What's the category for MIS?
Oh, do you mean which subject area it comes in?
Yes, yes.
Management and Information Studies.
Management of Information Systems.
It's not one of our journals. Is it a particular journal, or is it just a subject area?
It's a subject area.
Just a subject area. Management of Information Systems. I'd say it probably comes under the LIS area. I mean, it depends. It probably depends from publisher to publisher, to be honest. You know, we have our own taxonomy areas. So we have library and information science journals, business and management, marketing. But it really depends from publisher to publisher. So, and we find at Emerald there are a lot of crossovers with particular journals. So it will vary quite a lot. I mean, I guess it could potentially be management or library and information science. But I think it will vary. It could vary. You know, it will vary from publisher to publisher.
Okay. Thank you, Ruth. Okay. We have another question. If you want to check the acceptance or rejection rate of journals, where do you check?
Where do you find it? Okay, the acceptance or rejection rate.
If you want to know, yes.
Yeah. Normally, publishers tend to include this on their website. So if you go to the journal homepage, you should be able to find that information there. We don't actually publish them here at Emerald. So if you are thinking about an Emerald journal in particular, it's worthwhile to contact the publisher of the journal to ask them directly. But normally, I think for other publishers, they do tend to publish them on their website. And the contact details of all of our journals are on the website as well. Or you can come to me if you have any questions, and I can pass them on to the relevant person.
Okay. Thank you so much. Another question. Aaron wants to know, why do authors not meet the revision deadline? Is it very difficult?
I think a lot of authors are obviously they're really busy people. Most of them are academics and they're teaching at different institutions, or if they're practitioners, then they're probably really busy if they're working in business or wherever. So I think people probably just get really busy and they probably overlook things like this, and they're busy with their day-to-day lives and with work and things. So it's something that sounds really obvious, meeting a revision deadline, but it's something that a lot of authors actually don't meet the revision deadline, and it really is in their best interest to, because if they do meet the deadline, then they're more likely to get published, and they're more likely to get published a lot quicker as well. So, and the sooner the authors get published, the better, because it means their research will be accessed quicker, and their peers will be able to read it. So, I'm not too sure, but I would imagine it's because people are busy.
Okay, thanks. We have another question. Says, if you want to promote your work once you're published, what you said about promoting your work, then which websites or publications would you recommend to get that done?
So which websites would I recommend?
Yes, for promoting your work.
Yeah, I mean, you could try the university website. Most universities would be happy for you to put, if you've just published an article, you could link to it from the institution's website. Like I said before, when an author publishes in an Emerald journal, we'll send you an email notification saying, congratulations, your article's been published, and with a link to access it. So you could consider publishing it on the university's website, maybe with an abstract as well. Or if you have a personal website, you could consider putting it on there. Or maybe one of your colleagues' websites. If you're a busy manager, you might have a company website that you want to use. So I guess it's a case of sort of being open-minded, really, and speaking to colleagues, speaking to peers, and really trying to make.
Okay. What if you have a paper that is controversial, a paper that is contrary to popular opinion? Is it the same process to get published? Or is there some advice that could help in those cases?
Oh, right. So
if your paper is controversial.
Yeah. If a paper is controversial, is that more likely to make it publishable? Is it the same process? Yes, it is. Yeah. Authors would go through the same process of trying to get their work published. They go through the same submission process. I guess if the paper is controversial, I mean, it depends obviously how it is controversial, in what way it's controversial. It could be controversial, if it's groundbreaking research, but obviously it would need to be backed up with evidence, then it's, I don't know, it could be of particular interest to the editor, to the reviewers. So, if it's saying something new that's not been said before, then that could be, that could be a good thing actually. I think as long as it's backed up with evidence, and like I said, it depends entirely how it is controversial. But yeah, the whole process would still be the same.
Thank you. Does Emerald help with other publication work? For example, book reviews?
Yes, we do actually publish books as well. I know a lot of the content in the presentation today was just covered journals, but we do publish a lot of books as well in lots of different subject areas, including business and management. So if anyone is interested in being a book author or acting as a book reviewer, we would be really pleased to hear from you. So please feel free to contact me. My contact details are on the slide. So yeah, contact me with your suggestions.
Thank you so much. Do you have a standard number of pages for an article?
I don't know if I could give you the amount in pages, but all of our journals have information. If you go onto the journal homepage and look in the author guidelines section, there's lots of information there, and the word count is included. It's usually between sort of 3,000 to 5,000 words. That's sort of an average, and it does vary from journal to journal. But all that information is included in the author guidelines, and then for other publishers, that information will be on their website as well, so you will be able to access it.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. I have another question. Maureen would like to know if you publish research findings from a consulting assignment.
Sorry,
Hello,
Kemi,
Ruth?
could you repeat that, please?
Ruth?
Can you hear me?
Would Emerald, yes, I can hear you now. Would Emerald publish research findings from a consulting assignment?
From where, sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Consulting.
Consortium.
If someone carries out a consulting assignment, yes.
Did you say if someone
trying to ask if Emerald would publish research findings from a consulting assignment, if the findings came from a particular consulting work?
Okay. Yes, we would. Yeah. We're really interested in publishing research that will be of use. So I think that is a particularly good example of research that can be used. So yes, we would be very keen to publish that sort of research.
We also have a caller who is raising their hand, and we'd like to take him off of mute. I'll go ahead and try. This is Ijan Mian, who has a question. I'm going to go ahead and take off mute. We'll see if we can hear them. Hold on just a moment. Ijan, can you hear us?
Yes, good evening.
Great.
Good evening.
Could you please tell us where you're calling from?
I'm in Karachi, Pakistan, Institute of Business Administration.
Great. And you have a question?
Yes, I am. I would like to know if you are interested in publication of cases also, cases which provide value to the practitioners in the field, for instance.
Yes, we're very interested in publishing case studies, definitely. Like I said before, we're really interested in publishing research that can be used. So, and we recently actually launched a new product which just includes case studies. So we are very interested in publishing case studies.
Is there a, sorry, go ahead, please.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
I want to know is there a particular format for case writing, because there could be several formats. But if I have, if I can have access to the publication you mentioned, then that would serve as a guideline for me.
Yes, there are some instructions on our website actually. If you have a look, if you go through the presentation, there's a link to our For Authors and For Researchers section, and there are various how-to guides that you can access. One of the how-to guides includes information on how to write a really good quality case study. So I would recommend that you go on there and have a look. And then with regards to which journal to submit to, I'd have a look on the website, look at the subject collections, and try and sort of drill down the particular subject area that your paper is going to be based on, and try to look at the journal scope and coverage. Some journals tend to publish more sort of academic papers rather than case studies, but some are more focused on sort of practitioner papers, and some have a mix. So it really depends on from journal to journal, really. So I'd have a look. I'd have a look online. But if you need me to send you any links, just feel free to send me a link, send me an email, and I'll send you some links.
Wonderful. One last one. I'm in the process of finishing my PhD dissertation, and okay. I foresee some papers from that. Could I send those papers for publication?
Yes, you can. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned in the presentation, if you are completing a PhD, then you could potentially get 2 or 3 good quality research articles from your PhD. So yeah, I would definitely recommend. I mean, obviously you would need to rewrite them, so they were shorter. So they were shorter documents. Probably, like I said before, maybe between 3,000 to 5,000 words. But I'd have a look at the journal that you're thinking. Have a look at a collection of journals. Think about which ones you want to target. And then you would have to rewrite them to make them to turn them into a research article.
Great, thank you so much, Ijaz. If you'd like to also raise your hand to be taken off of mute to ask a question, you can feel free to do so now. Again, it's using that hand tool to raise your hand, the hand button. You can also send your questions via chat for Kemi to respond to as well. We have about 7 minutes left to the presentation, so we have a few more questions to get to. I'm going to go ahead and have Kemi answer a few more questions via the chat function. So go ahead, Kemi.
Thank you, Lisa. Shamsha would like to know how reviewers are selected for a paper.
I'm sorry, Kemi.
This is a question for Ruth.
Yeah. What was the question?
How are the reviewers selected? How are reviewers selected for a paper? How does the editor select the reviewers for the paper?
Right. Yeah, the editor will look at the paper. He'll look at the subject area of the paper, and he will try to match reviewers to fit that particular paper. So a lot of our journals are on an online submission system called ScholarOne. And many reviewers' information and contact details are actually listed in the online submission system, including their areas of expertise. So the editor will go online, sorry, excuse me, and he will search using keywords to find reviewers that fit a particular paper. So that's one way. If the journal doesn't use an online submission system, then the editor might have a slightly different process, but essentially the editor will look at the subject area of the paper, and he will try to match reviewers to fit that. And then the majority of our journals are double-blind peer-reviewed, so most will have had two external reviewers. So the editor will select the reviewers and then send the reviews out to them, and then we'll make decisions once the reviews come back.
Thank you. I have one other question from Shamsha. If an author gives free access to her own paper from her website, is it okay? If the paper has been already published, can the author give free access to the paper via her own website?
No, unfortunately not. The author would need to, they could include a link to access the paper. Well, they could either publish their own version of the article, which was the non-branded version. That would probably be the best thing to do. And then they could publish that online, and that would be fine. If it had the Emerald branding on, that's a no-go area. They could include a link to. So I guess my answer would be for the author to publish the non-branded version on their website. They'd take, obviously, the Emerald logos and everything shouldn't be on there, but they could include a link to the Emerald version.
Thank you, Ruth. I don't have any more questions.
We do have another individual who has her hand raised, Caroline Goodyear. I'm going to go ahead and try and take her off of mute to see if she has a question to ask. Hello, Caroline? Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like she might have access to a mic, so I'm going to go ahead. I have Guy Pfefferman. He's actually the CEO of GBSN. Hello, Guy. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
You're very quiet. Can you improve the
Can
volume
you hear
of
me
it?
now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, congratulations for the webinar. I thought that was very successful.
Thank you very much.
How many participants did we have?
Heidi, joining us still today on the webinar is about 20 participants, maybe about 25 from all over the world.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lisa. Well done.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us today, Guy. Did you have any questions for
No,
Ruth
I
or
do not.
Kemi?
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for joining us today, Guy. We have about 3 minutes left of the presentation. We probably have enough time for one more question. If anyone would like to be taken off of mute, they can go ahead and raise their hand, have access to a mic, or send in a question. If not, I do have one last question, and that you mentioned in the presentation, and that is, you mentioned that turnaround time might be a basis of your decision of where you want to be published. If you have the material ready and you want to be published immediately versus waiting, how would you find out that information?
You could ask the publisher. I think that sort of information doesn't tend to be published online. So I think you would need to go to the publisher in the first instance, and they would be able to give you an idea. Or you could contact the editor. Or some journals have an editorial assistant as well, so I'd go online and contact either the publisher or the editor.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was really useful. Thank you, Kemi, as well, for moderating and responding to questions. GBSN will be sending out an email. It'll include the PowerPoint presentation of Emerald, as well as a link to this recorded copy of the webinar. You can please feel free to share with your colleagues and share the information to also follow up. Ruth's email is right here on the presentation, as well as Kemi and GBSN will be sent out to you. So you can also follow up specifically with questions. At the end of the webinar, when you exit, you will be given a very brief evaluation. I encourage you to respond to the evaluation and also give us ideas for what webinars to carry and hold in the future. If you could go ahead and give us suggestions, or if you'd like to participate in a webinar yourself, you can also feel free to contact me. All right, everyone, it's now 10:30 a.m. Washington, D.C., and later all around the world. I'm glad for everyone who was able to join us today. Please look out for webinar announcements coming in the future. So thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Kemi.
Thank you very much.
Lisa.
All right, take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.